Michal despises David. Dear friends, in the previous story, we saw David who came into power over Israel, right? In today's story, we will see how David's reign went and if it was pleasing in God's sight. After David became king, Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David and sent cedar trees and also carpenters and masons who built David a house. And David knew that the Lord had established him king over Israel. But not everyone were like the king of Tyre, who wanted to maintain friendship with David. When the kings of the surrounding nations heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, they gathered for war against David. The Philistines took the first step against David. Hearing this, David inquired of the Lord. According to the commandment of God, David went against the Philistines. The Lord had burst through David's enemies before him like a bursting flood. Yet after some time the Philistines came up again. This time the Lord went ahead of the army and fought Israel's battle and defeated the Philistines. Then, understanding that the ark of the Lord, who established his kingdom in Israel, was still in a house, David decided to bring it back to Jerusalem. In the time of Eli the priest, when the Philistines attacked Israel, instead of trusting God, they put their trust in the Ark of God and brought it to the camp, and the Philistines captured it from them. However, they were able to possess it for only 7 months. Because of the problems they faced since capturing the Ark of God, they sent it back to Israel. And it was kept in the house of Abinadab on the hill, and his son Eleazar was consecrated to have charge of the ark. We have seen these stories in our previous videos. The ark was in that house till this day. And David gathered 30,000 men of Israel to bring up the ark of God from there. Then David and the men with him went to the house of Abinadab. They carried the ark of God on a new cart and brought it out of the house of Abinadab. Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, were drawing the cart, Ahio in the front and Uzzah in the back. And David and all the house of Israel were making merry before the Lord, with songs and lyres and harps and tambourines and castanets. But after a short distance, the oxen tumbled. Uzzah put out his hand and took hold of the ark of God, so that it wouldn't fall. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and the Lord struck him down because of his error. And he died there before the ark of God. And David was angry because the Lord had burst forth against Uzzah. And he was afraid of the Lord that day. Then they stopped their journey. They kept the ark in the house of Obed-Edom and went back. What wrong happened here? Didn't Uzzah have a good intention? Then why did God kill Uzzah? Isn't that what you're thinking? When they decided to carry the ark of God on a cart, they were breaking the commandment which God gave on how the ark should be transported from one place to another about 4 centuries ago. According to God's command, the ark should be carried on the shoulders of the Kohathites in the tribe of Levi. Here, however, it was kept in a cart. But when the Philistines sent back the same ark almost 50 years ago, hadn't they kept it in a cart? But why didn't they have a problem, right? The reason for that is God is righteous. The Lord overlooks the days of our ignorance. At that time, the Philistines who sent back the ark did not know of his commandments. Because the Israelites who had God's law did not obey him, they had to face the consequences. Even though they carried the ark on a cart, weren't their intentions good? How happily and sincerely would have David and the men with him danced and sang before the Lord. But none of that was greater than obedience to God. Whatsoever with the death of Uzzah, David also feared God. David went back to the palace and realized the mistake they made. David understood that they did not seek him according to the rules. By this time the ark was in Obed-Edom's house for 3 months. The Lord blessed Obed-Edom and his household. Knowing this, David again set out to bring the Ark of God back once again. This time David did not take chosen men, but told Levitical priests to consecrate themselves to carry the ark. Thus they went, and according to God's commandment carried the ark on the shoulders of the priest. David danced before the Lord with all his might, and he was wearing a linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord, with shouting and with the sound of the horn. Then they brought in the ark of God and set it in its place, inside the tent that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. Then he blessed the people in the name of the Lord. And David returned to bless his household. One person there despised David for dancing in front of the ark. That was none other than David's wife and Saul's daughter Michal. She felt that that was not how a king should act. Michal, who came out to meet David, told him of her disapproval. But David did not have a problem in dancing before the Lord, who chose him above Michal's father and made him king over Israel. David said that he would do this again. But God did not like Michal's act. Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child till the day of her death. And David defeated the nations around him, including the Philistines, Moabites, the king of Zobah, Aramites, and the Edomites. They became servants to David and brought tribute. When the Lord had given him rest from all his surrounding enemies, David had a desire in his heart. While David was living in a palace made of cedar, David felt sad that the Ark of God was in a tent. So he wanted to build a temple for God. David informed that to Nathan the prophet. Nathan gave permission for that. But that same night the word of God came to Nathan. God told him to tell David to step back from doing it, but that his house and kingdom will be sure forever before the Lord. He also said that it would not be him, but his offspring who would establish a house for God. Then David inquired if anyone in the family of Jonathan was alive. They found Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, and brought him to David. Years ago, when Mephibosheth's nurse heard the news that Saul and his children died in the battle against the Philistines, she took 5-year-old Mephibosheth and ran. In that running, Mephibosheth fell and became crippled. But honoring the covenant he made with Jonathan, David showed kindness to Mephibosheth, and he ate at the king's table like one of his sons. Even though the kingdom was his, the battles in David's life did not end. This time when the Ammonites came against Israel, David sent Joab and his men to the battle line, but David remained in Jerusalem. While David stayed at home instead of going to the battlefield, someone else was preparing for battle against him. We'll see who that was and what happened in the next story. God bless you.